good, real good. I'll start with this. Swift's going to do a little bit more today. So we'll work him into practice. He'll be with Deuce, get some individual, and then we'll get him some reps in practice, just see where he's at that point. But I don't see him playing this weekend. Hawkinson, he'll get a little bit, but not team. He could get a little individual. He may be with Tom a little bit more off to the side. Our thought with him is more ramp him up next week. Is kind of the thought, because really this is the last kind of big day we'll have until we play Pittsburgh. So, but on those two, Brockers is getting better. There again, don't see him playing, and hopefully next week we'll be able to start to work him back in more into practice. But he is improving. It's just kind of slow going, but it's getting there. So those are kind of the big ones there.
What's the plan for your starters this week?
Yeah.
When you talked about it again, you're kind of still deciding with the three with the change.
Yeah. Look, I still see most of our starters playing. I would tell you this. This has been in my head for probably about a week. I'm starting to think about now maybe sitting a few of these guys, select few veterans, is kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm not there yet. I want to see how we get through this practice too. That'll play a lot into it.
Golf one of those, or will golf play?
Golf could be one of those that could be down, possibly down. Yes.
The workload, I guess, obviously with Blau, the shoulder and Boyle haven't been out. Just explain that a little bit. Why is that important to manage? Even though he's a relatively young guy, why is it important to manage the quarterback work like this?
Well, just to there again, we only have three. We had three. We brought in the other here the other day, but just. It's funny because Brunel brought this up, and he was like, well, I guess if you throw 6 days in a row, I guess it's too much. But back in the day, you'd go 14 in a row, and it'd be 2 days. You're throwing twice a day. And so, but everything's relative. There again, man, we don't want to wear his shoulder out, and then you get something where he ends up pulling something in there because it's put more of a strain on him because now our third quarterback's down, which has been Blau. But I think it's important, too, for Blau to be able to – I want him to have the best opportunity as well to have success. And so that's why let's bring in a fourth. We'll see where that guy's at, kind of you get a look at him. But also it gives us a couple of days to get Blau back a little bit for this game. I do see Blau playing, and I think Boyle's going to be able to go as well.
Follow up on that. If you're thinking about sitting guys this week, what does that mean for next week?
I think whatever we do this week will be pretty much the same as next week. So whatever this ends up being, I think is going to be, it'll probably play out very similar next week. And, look, a lot of it has to do with where we're at in the roster as well. I mean, there's already a couple of areas that I've thought it might be good to sit, but we can't do it with where we're at, just the roster. We've got some injuries in certain areas, and if you sit one or two guys, now that whole group gets depleted if you lose one more in the game, and then all of a sudden you lose half your roster. So, it's a tug of war between, you do want to get better. You want to get them different looks. You want to get competitive looks. You want to have a chance to win the game, but then also you don't want to wipe half your roster out either. So, that's the game that we play.
If Buffalo was the only, game that your first team offense plays together, how do you feel about where they're at to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we need to improve, and I feel like we are improving. One of the things that we did the other night when you guys were here it was much more situational football and spot the ball and play it out. Red zone, backed up, spot it, play it out. 4 minutes, spot it, play it out. And just trying to put those guys in unique situations and then, look, we're not out there, you are, and let them kind of figure it out a little bit. Now, we're behind what goes in or out, but yet just to put it on them a little bit, and I thought they responded well. I thought that was really good for us, and that was kind of my plan is, that was one. We're going to do another one next week, and then we'll do another one after the Indy game. Will be the last one. So I kind of think of those a little more as, okay, those are where you're really getting the ones ready to go, and you're putting a pretty good load on them rep-wise, but they're also getting situational football, and it's competitive, and it's for them, when you start putting a score up there or a situation, it gets a little more intense. They can't help themselves, and that's good. But that's where I kind of see the work going, and then we can control it as well.
Bruce Hector, in the context
see him out there in the backfield all the time. He carries over the preseason game, 1 sack, a couple pressures, 3 tackles. How difficult does he make decisions when you've got kind of a deep room already, but he's kind of forcing you to notice?
I know. He does make it difficult in a good way. And I can't believe you did this to me, Justin, because here's the problem is every time I speak good about somebody, or if I speak good about, in front of the room with them, they're awful the next day. And so, but he has been a guy, to your point, what you're seeing is 100% accurate. Every day he comes out and does his job and just shows up. He just kind of quietly is always there. He's consistent. He's smart. He's a workhorse. And it's hard not to notice. It sure is. And so he would be one of those guys that's going to make it real hard on us if he continues to trend the way he's trending. But that's an excellent job by Brad and those guys of, you find that guy and you bring him in, and you're happy you've got him in camp. It was exactly what you want in camp, a guy who you think can compete to make your roster and help you. Yes, sir.
I think you talked about this a little bit, but how much does the extra week between the last preseason game and the start of the regular season make you think about whether you're going to play guys or sit guys in the last game?
Yeah, I mean, it does make you think about it, but there again, you're always going to have this. You're fighting this fine balance between getting the work that you need, different looks, the intensity versus understanding that you got a whole extra game plus playoffs. And that in itself, I've said this before, the hard thing is knowing that really nothing has changed for the starters except for the fact they got a whole nother game in the season, and so it's you're just going to constantly fight the balance between that. Do you play them? Do you not play them? Who plays? How much do you play? And there again, part of me, like, we got a lot of young guys and they need to play and they will, but some of these guys, I am tempted to sit and get the work out here at the practice field with them. And because there again, I feel like nothing's for certain when you're out there, but you have much more control over how you handle the practice and the whistle and all those things that's different in those games sometimes.
Dan, as you and Brad are weighing these roster decisions over the next couple of weeks, how do you sort of look at what maybe will make you the best team in week 1 versus what the long-term goals are here? Does that come into the equation at all?
It does, and yes, it does. It does, and those are hard. Those are hard ones, but those are ones that we've talked about, and I think the end game has always been about what's best for us long term. Ultimately, however, not at the expense of us being, non-competitive or not having a chance to compete. Not at that expense. And so, look, we've got a lot of young guys on this roster that we like, and a lot of them need development. But we like them, and so we'll just see where this thing plays out. But it is. There again, we have. I mean, we have conversations every night, every day about this stuff, and who we think could make it, who can't, why, all those things. Yes, sir.
The X's and O's, and obviously a lot of different things about coaching. But as far as the emotional terms of coaching, what have you learned? I mean, that's something you don't anticipate. We saw your emotions on display a little bit, talking about some of the players and situations that you guys been through. But how have you learned to deal with the emotional aspect of coaching? Is that something you factored in when you took the job? And just how have you dealt with that side?
Well, I was fortunate I did get 12 weeks of it in Miami, so I had already had a bit of a taste of it, and really during the hardest time of the year, which was the season. So I kind of knew a little bit of what I was walking into. Now, what I didn't ever have to worry about necessarily was what's coming down the wire and what had to transpire a couple of days ago. When you have to start letting players go that have just given their heart and soul to everything, that's hard, and for me, I can take things personal at times. If I'm being honest with you, it does. It digs on me a little bit, and I hate it because I was in that locker room and I played. And I know when you see these guys who literally do give everything they have, and you got to let them go, or you got to make these decisions. It's tough. It's real tough because I appreciate them, but it is what it is.
The one criticism the organization has got about the U-Buck thing was that it was on his birthday. that
No doubt.
way to,
No, there's no way to sugarcoat that. I'm an asshole, so that's about the best way to put it, and I hate it. No, it is, but there's no way to, there was no way around it really. I mean, yeah, you could say there is, but ultimately that falls on me. It's my fault, and Don's a hell of a dude, and it sucks, but it is what it is.
the linebacker up the next day.
Yeah, and there was a number of moves like with Nick that was coming down the wire to get him back from COVID reserve, and the linebacker, and then the quarterback because of where we were at there, and it just once again it's putting a strain, and you're looking for that spot, and unfortunately it has to be on his birthday, and it stinks.
Dan, just to go back to that roster question, as you're evaluating who is going to make the team and who's not, are you paying attention to the free agents that are being released by other teams?
Absolutely, every day. Brad and them have been on it every day for every team. And so I've told the team this, and these guys know we're always looking for just because you may be the number one guy here or the number two guy here doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way or that even you make it here. Because we're looking for the best that are out there to help upgrade us roster-wise. I mean, that's what Brad does. That's what his crew does, and we're always looking there.
Process standpoint, obviously you've got enough on your plate to not be watching film on 31 other teams right now. So is it more are you a rubber stamp at that point? Does Brad bring you a guy and you kind of quickly look at him? How does that work with working hand in hand and building this roster?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is Brad. What he'll usually do is they've done the leg work on it, and he brings it to me and just asks me, kind of what I think or any thought, and then we'll take it to the position coach. But there's a ton of this to where, and I've told Brad this because I just know from working with him from the time that I have through the spring that, we're on the same page. And so I told him before, I'm like, look, man, I trust you. And so if any of these things start coming down the wire, we got to do something pretty fast, and you feel like it's the right thing, then I trust you with that decision. But he's in constant contact with me, with how it goes down.
Thank you.